I get a little jacket that matches? Oh, cool. My any of my light jackets. There's that like brown one behind the door. Oh my, sure, whatever. Sorry, it's gonna pull my computer down. My computer is super light. Yeah. Like the other day, the wind nearly blow it down. Yeah. I told you that. There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Lynette Marrero, and I'm one of the co-founders of SpeedRack. And this is actually our last panel of our, I know, of She Persisted Women's History Month, but it is a panel that we have been waiting for, really happy to present. And it culminates, I feel like this panel really is like the culmination of everything we did this month. This month we focused on mentorship, career, financial wellness, and a bit of history. And I think everyone here represents a part of that with their journey and business they've been doing and carrying through, you know, just fighting all the systems and making change. So I really love this group of women for their business acumen, but with the right intention. So as I said, just before we started recording, I've met a lot of these people in person, so 50-50. Kiara and Anna have been in the SpeedRack family and have competed. And Mimi, who I've met in October through all of these events. And then Chrissy, who I actually just started following on social and have gotten to know what a wonderful human being she is just from that view. And Andrea, who I was set up on a blind date with LP, told me, like, you need to call this woman because I think you both have similar energies and synergies and want to do things. And so I am very blessed that this time has brought me to new people and new business relationships that are also, you know, there's strength in this kind of relationships that you build. And, you know, I haven't necessarily done business with everyone here, but I see ways we're all going to help each other and invest in each other. And that's the power of community. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our wonderful moderator, Andrea Merriweather, who owns Barfare Concepts and Swig and Culture, and is based out of Louisville, Kentucky. And our first conversation, which I'm going to kind of preface this with, was about cocktail competitions and how to have better representation and better prepare. We were talking specifically of BIPOC bartenders for competing on national stages. And I know we have a lot of work to do there, and I'm very excited to work with you on those initiatives as we go through. But this panel, I'm going to pass it up to you and be able to meet our incredible panel and these wonderful women who are kicking ass and doing wonderfully inspiring things throughout this time. So I pass the mic and I will spotlight all of you.
Thank you so much, Lynette. Everybody, let's clap it up for SpeedRack. I mean, this has been, just amazing and phenomenal. Bringing women together, letting us all really just, be our full selves. So thank you so much for sharing your platform, for bringing us all together. We need to do this more, not just for Women's History Month, but we need to just do this, put this kind of magic and confetti out throughout the year. That we all do. I'm so honored to be here today with everyone. There is an amazing lineup of women-owned businesses and talent on this roster. Names that you know, names that you don't know, names that you absolutely should know if you don't. We have Miss Anna Cabrera from Suck It Up SA, San Antonio, Texas. Mimi Evans, Mix and Mimi Mixology, Life Gives You Lemons, Washington, D.C. Kiata Mincy Parker, A Sip of Paradise Garden, Atlanta, Georgia. And last but never least, Christina Shaffy of Charismatic Creations in Washington, D.C. All right, so we got strong representation in the Northeast. I love to see it. So when we think about, from the woman's lens and the woman's perspective about being a business owner and leveraging your network, how important it is to have relationships. I often first think of the saying, no man is an island. So today I want to challenge us all to be in that space that no woman is an island. And you can't stand alone. You can't do it alone. Something that I learned very early in my career, and I was taught this by a male mentor, but I carry it with me all the way. If you want to stifle it, you'll hold it close to the chest. If you want to see it grow, you'll let it go. So that's something that, I really want to start this conversation space with. I'm going to ask each of the ladies to kind of tell us a little bit more about their business and what it has really looked like from their perspective and how they build relationships as a business owner, as a woman in the food and beverage space. Like, what does that journey or process look like for you? I'll start with Kiata.
There we go. Hi. My name is Kiata Mincy Parker. I'm a Liberian American bartender based in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been bartending for 18 years, but with the pandemic, I was able to pivot into something different. I was a finalist for Bombay Sapphire's Most Imaginative Bartender. I was compiled with hundreds of applicants, and I made it to the top 100, and then I made it to the semifinals and made the top 12. I was flown to London for a whole week. I was one of 5 women, and I was the only Black person through that journey. Well, once you got to the upper levels. And honestly, from all of those things, we had different components of the competition, and one of them was our Canvas Challenge. And it's funny because the co-founder of For Our Health was with me in the top 3, and Lynette was one of my judges. So that's the more you talk, it's more interesting how the world gets smaller and smaller. But through all those things, I didn't win. I came in top 3. My idea was to have a bartender's community garden. There's nothing for just us. Every time we as bartenders try to do stuff, the owner jumps in, the chef jumps in the picture too, and then, everybody else. So there's nothing really for us, and we are the hub of everything. You meet at the bar, your lineup's at the bar, you get in trouble at the bar, like everything happens at the bar, and we are in a stationary position. We're not able to walk away. Servers can walk off and pass it on to somebody else. As a bartender, we have to take it. We do. And a lot of times we don't even make the money they make, So for all the responsibilities and everything that's laid on us, who takes care of us? So I thought we should start taking care of ourselves. Gardening is something I've always enjoyed. It helped me get through a lot of hard times and good times. And I thought it would be something that would help my friends. So coming back, I was like, gosh, I didn't win the money. I don't know how we're gonna do this. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'll just take a whole year off and just plan the whole thing out, beg for some money, get it started, whatever. Then the pandemic happened. And all of a sudden, everybody had free time. And everybody that I was talking to about this was like, so what's going on with the garden? What are we gonna do? And I was like, what do you mean, what are we gonna do? We don't have no money. And I had already had a team in place, I already had land, and I had these ideas. So what do we do as bartenders? We push through. I called everybody up, we got this land together, people wanted plots, and then all of a sudden brands were like, hey, what's going on with that garden thing? Oh, well, it's coming along. Well, how can I help? You know what? We need this. We need these tools. We need a shed. We need these things. And these are people that were like, okay, this sounds cool. How can I help? What do you need? And it kind of exploded from there. And it's even exploded now to the point that I have to let go. I have to let go. I have to let the people that I put in places do their jobs, and I have to do my job because I'm the face. I'm always talking about this, but I also have other plans, and I'm also trying to pocket this so I can put it in other cities like my plan has always been. So I can't do that if I'm micromanaging, hey, what are you doing over here? Hey, I don't know about this. I have to trust my team to do what they're supposed to do because nobody can do this by themselves, like you said from the beginning. But that's me.
Thank you so much, Kiata. Love your project. Chrissy, tell us, what has it been like, trying to navigate the food and beverage space through COVID?
So hi everyone, I'm Chrissy. And honestly, for me, COVID has been one of the most remarkable years within me owning a business. And, in some spaces I have to make sure I say that in ways where I'm grateful, because I also know that it was a really tough year for a lot of people. So let's see, I started my business in 2017. And this was when mobile bar services, it just wasn't a cool thing to do. And people behind the bar didn't really look at mobile bar businesses the same way like a bartender at a restaurant. And so for me, coming from a restaurant and bars for years, it was one of those things where, oh my gosh, I'm doing something and a lot of people I know aren't doing it. So how do I put myself in a position to be a business instead of just a creative? There's a lot of creative people, but in order to monetize off your creativity, you have to be about your business. And one thing for me, business is very important. So I had to completely step away from the hospitality industry and make sure my business was in order. So for me, I learned how to do business within the food and beverage industry from businesses that aren't in the food and beverage industry. So structure is really important. So having and being around other business owners helped me form a foundation so I can bring my hospitality industry knowledge back into my business. And it's been very important. And without doing that, I don't think 2020 would have been one of the most remarkable years for my business. In 2019, I was speaking to a business sister of mine and we were talking about contracts. And I was like, I think I need to add an acts of God in my contract because the weather is bad and sometimes things can happen and I just don't want to lose any deposit money. And if I have to go home or if my team members, because my team is really important to me, if they have to go home, I don't want any sort of income to be interrupted. So in 2019, I added an acts of God clause. 2020, all these people asking for money back. And for me, I'm like, well, in your contract, there was an acts of God clause that also mentioned a pandemic. So being around those business people helped me get my business in order for me to be a really successful hospitality professional. So yes.
Chrissy, that was wisdom, experience, journey wisdom that needs to be shared. Anna, what about you? How did you tap into your network or leverage relationships to help you get through survival mode of COVID?
Absolutely. And it was survival mode. That's kind of the concept behind my brand. I always tell myself, suck it up, girl. You got to make your own shine. And so that was kind of my business idea, Suck It Up SA. It's what I did during a time where I couldn't create anymore. I couldn't have a job. We were all quarantined for months. And before the even lockdown, I was in New Orleans competing for Speed Rack 2019, 2020. So we were there March 17th, had to shut down and then make our journey back to Texas. So while I was shutting down in New Orleans, I actually sat with some other girls who had competed. I helped close down their bars. We helped clean out their refrigerators. We were all talking about what we were going to do when we were going back to our original states. So we were, of course, just talking between all the ladies. We all made ideas. I came back to San Antonio with a plan. I knew I wasn't going to be able to sell liquor, but I can always make sours. So I built a concept by using sours as a universal base, and with low maceration, different types of, me using citric acid, different types of elements for stabilizing, having myself PET plastic that's really health friendly, and then spill proof, tampered evident bottles, just kind of thinking outside the box. I came back with an idea. Now I didn't have a bar. So you have an idea, no bar. I didn't have money for a business. I didn't have money for a location. I couldn't even get into a commercial space because everything was shut down. So I just started selling mixers out of a cooler on the side of the street. And I have the first picture, it makes me cry. I have a picture of me out there with my cooler and my little chair. And I was paying my bills until I had to wait 5 weeks to get on unemployment. So in those 5 weeks of downtime, I made enough supplemental money for me to house myself, figure it out. And then I started realizing I have a good foundation base. In those 5 weeks, I helped other businesses promote their ongoing menus. I identified resources that I was looking at for my own aid in the community. I kept reaching out to people and checking in on my neighbors. So where it's either 2 months in a pandemic that we thought was only going to take a week, nobody knew it was going to be that long. So after 2 months, I realized, hey, my network's pretty strong. Let's keep going. So I got myself licensing. I got my brand on point. I started looking at social media. Every small business owner understands the multiple hats you have to wear. It's not just about producing a menu and execution. It's also follow-up, social media, accounting, costing, P&Ls, spreadsheets. But my network and the other people in my life, lots of my Speed Rack gals, a lot of people in my life always lent an ear. And I was able to get my concept into bars once they started opening. I started getting accounts that allowed me to put packaged goods and packaged products in their shelves. And in the end, almost a year later to the month, I interviewed for one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. And now I'm a beverage director at a really great bar and restaurant. And one of the leverages that I brought to the table was my to-go. So I know package to go, I know cocktail kits, and I'm making success without even adding liquor to it. So when you add the liquor to it, it's a whole different ballpark. And I was able to bring that by the relationships I built during a pandemic. I found myself a job. I brought my product to the market. And now it's just about educating and working laterally so my squad can help each other. It's a blessing.
Let's pause for Anna for a moment. Yes, girl. Yes.
That was wild. It was wild. It was almost to the day. And I remember when I went to Speed Rack, and I know some of my gals are watching, we all talked about this. I went to Speed Rack in 2020 to look for a job. I wanted a new bar. I wanted a place where I could be creative. I wanted a place where I could have the financial security to live my best life. And I came back without it, but I came back with people and support. And in my own fruitfulness and planting seeds, I was able to really get myself to the level because I never gave up. So that's the main thing. And I even wrote this, we need to fulfill ourselves and be our own boss.
Yes, Anna, you are literally the epitome of what my grandfather told me a long time ago, that force whenever the ceiling feels like it's crashing in. He always says, slow feet don't eat.
Closed mouths don't eat.
Slow.
Never.
You got to it. You didn't even have time to think about your problem. Like all you knew is that you needed to solve it. And we need more people with that kind of tenacity, that kind of work ethic. Like younger women need to know that nobody is coming to do it for you. You better get up and do it. If you want it to happen, you better get your feet to moving because no one's going to do it for you. So thank you so much for that, Anna. Mimi, come on. Tell us about those lemons and how they're gonna give us life.
Yeah, so it's so funny. I always say like I'm full of cliches. So my name is Mimi Evans. I'm the owner of Mix and Mimi Mixology in DC, well, the DMV. I also now own a brand called Life Gives You Lemons. And my story sounds similar to all of these ladies, and they've hit on points that, I experienced all of this. When the pandemic first hit, well, I'll backtrack. I started Mix and Mimi Mixology in 2012. And prior to starting that, my background was in technology. So I was a tech specialist. So I dealt with computers and things like that. So this was kind of like my nightlife, bartending and doing this for fun. And in 2012, Dad passed away. First time I really experienced life giving me lemons. And, I decided that I wanted to do something similar to what he was doing. I always wanted to own a business in some way, shape, or form. And I stayed in my industry as far as, technology full time, but I did start promoting myself as Mix and Mimi because I had been in bars, I've been in restaurants. I didn't love those spaces. And Chrissy hit on a really good point. Once I transitioned into doing private events, weddings, corporate events, things like that, you sort of lose the respect of those in the industry because now you're not considered a creative. And it's so funny that you said that because it wasn't until even though I've been bartending for so long, it wasn't until 2018 that I got a mentor. Because what does happen, well, for me, I did sort of lose that creativity because it sort of becomes monotonous. You sort of do the same thing when you're dealing with these type of events. And, I hadn't, even though I was in the industry before, one of the things that I hope we talk about this on the call, resources. Although I was bartending for so long, I didn't have access to resources. There were things that I didn't know until I got a mentor that just so happened to be a Black woman. And she was like, oh no, you need to check this out. You need to be traveling here. You need to get into these activities, compete if you want to. And things have been going well since 2018. So business was picking up. 2019 was a really good year. And so I'm excited about 2020. Actually, right before the pandemic hit, I participated in the Gin World competition, Gin Love's Campari competition, and won. So I was super excited about that because I'm like, oh yeah, 2020, here we go. And then that same month, that was March, maybe the week before they announced that we were going to be on lockdown. And I was like, okay, well, a week, not a problem. It's cool. Everybody thought it was a week. And then, from there, things just kind of spiraled. Even though, like Chrissy, I have a clause for, acts of God, I just didn't, I couldn't, for some people, I refunded a lot because there were things that, people had that were like right around the corner, April, May, June. Those ones I did because they were, I felt bad. And I really listened to Chrissy talk. I'm like, man, sometimes you got to boss up, you got to do what you have to do and maintain that. But a lot of things were refunded. A lot of things that hadn't even been paid for were canceled. A lot of the relationships that I had built on that side, the event side of things, they didn't crumble, but those events they were non-existent. So like a lot of ladies on the call, I, tapped into some of those skills that I did have to be able to do mobile, cocktail service or cocktails to go and things like that. But I also have mocktails because I got a little kitty. I have a 6-year-old, so I'm always making drinks for him. And then I get a lot of kitty events and things like that. So I did do mocktails, building relationships. I was contacted by a guy and his wife, and she ordered the cocktails, the boozies, and he actually ordered a mocktail. And when he tasted it, I was doing like these lemonade fights. I've always been really good with lemonades. I like making crazy flavors. And when he tasted it, he said, whoa, this is good. I have a smoothie shop. Don't know if you knew. I would like to have these in my shop. And I said, whoa, okay, well, here we go. And so from there, I've been able to, jump into another store. It went from us he initially ordered a dozen. He said, we're going to do a dozen a week. That didn't happen. It jumped to 50 a week and then 100 a week. And then, and now I'm in another store on 8th Street and they've jumped up. They've gone from 100 a week and they're now at about like 500 a week. And so I'm in a third location that's going to be starting next month. So I started that brand. Initially, I had it called something like Handcraft Creations by Mix and Mimi, because that's wanted to push Mix and Eat. But when I looked at the labeling situation for the bottles, I didn't like it. It didn't speak to why I started Life Gives You Lemons, or why I started that brand. So I changed the name to what it represented, which was Life Gives You Lemons. And I also changed the bottles, so it's representative or indicative of how you feel or should feel when you consume the drinks. They're all natural, vegan friendly, all about you drinking something that tastes good, also making you feel good. And my spiritual journey is a thing too. So I'm all about you feeling good inside and out. And so that's what that's been about in a nutshell.
Wow, that's awesome, Mimi. That scaling for a woman. Yes, ma'am, you did that. You did that. So I want to ask the plaguing question, because I feel like it's something that we don't talk about, especially as women, and then being in industry. Help. So the call for help, like when is that appropriate? Like, for me, I had a different experience in the industry because I always worked on male dominated teams. I went into management at a very young age. I went into the executive level in my 20s, and I didn't have women that were examples. All my examples were men. And I had this innate fear of asking for help because it made me look like the vulnerable or the weaker person on the team. But I think moving forward, and what we need to be pushing forward as a collective is letting women know in our industry and in our space that it's okay to seek help from your peers, and why that is so important. So I'd like for you all to share, how important you all feel, and how being vulnerable in that way has helped you in your business pursuits as well. Kiata, you want to start first?
Okay. So, I have what's funny, I've never had a woman mentor. It's funny, I've never had a woman mentor. All my mentors are these men. So I kind of have a really hard kind of crust on me, but I have to remember sometimes that I'm a Southern lady still. I'm a mom, I'm all these other things, but you have to, or it will actually kill you. I can't stress that enough. You have to be able to walk away. You have to be able to trust that the people that you put in their places can do their job. If not, then you need to move those people out of the places. But nobody can do any of this by themselves. Even casually talking before all this started, I mentioned I had kind of a rough day talking to somebody about something, and it was nothing for Lynette to be like, I'm gonna send you this, I got you, don't worry, we'll fix it. And I didn't even ask for anything. She just asked me, so how was your day? I was like, have you ever had a day where this happened? And it was nothing. And honestly, it's not a sign of weakness. Weak people sit there and crumble by themselves. It's stronger for you to ask for help and support. And at the end of the day, they're either going to be like see or not, like yes or no, like that. Nobody's going to pull a gun out on you and shoot you if you ask for help. And honestly, what's for you is for you, will be for you. So you reaching out to somebody is already supposed to happen. So just do it. Stop being a baby. Do it.
Chrissy, I liked how you shared about the importance of getting around other entrepreneurs and other people in the business space. What would you lend from your perspective about how that has helped you as a business person?
Yeah, so it's crazy how like the way I've been able to move in life, I've always been surrounded by some sort of entrepreneur spirit. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs. My fiance is an entrepreneur. And then one day I was going to a spice shop and I met an entrepreneur. Her name is Angel of the Spice Suite. And one day she called out and said, hey, we're having pop-ups. And so I DM'd her and I was like, okay, I love to pop up. And so I pop up one day, and then afterwards she was just like, would you like to be a Spice Girl? So one thing that Angel does in her Spice Suite, she owns a spice shop in DC, and it's like 21 other Black women. We own businesses and we pop up there for free And we run her store for her in exchange. And so being around those 21 women, plus the experience from my parents, plus from my fiance, I've just been able to focus on making sure I'm running a business and not just a side hustle. Because at one point it was a side hustle. But when you continue to look at it like a side hustle, it'll stay a side hustle because you're thinking about it small. I always wanted to make sure I was my own boss. I always wanted to set myself up so I could be always Black in any space that I entered. And so I was like, being around these people and listening to these people and being a sponge, I am going to soak all this shit up and I am going to be a entrepreneur. And so like just learning about other businesses that are different from me helps me move in a space where it's like, okay, you need to make sure you have several business accounts for your money, profit first, trademarking, expanding your portfolio, like all of these things are a result of being in those spaces. I feel like if I would have stayed to myself, or if I would have just thought about only making drinks or just doing these smaller things, I wouldn't have thought about a big picture about building a brand. And one of the like best advice that I've ever been given, and every time I'm on a platform or take over a page, I always say it because it's helped me be who I am, is start now, perfect later. And this is also some advice that I talked to Lynette about, just like everywhere I'm at, like if there's an entrepreneur, I'm always like, start now, perfect later. When you're starting, if things are going wrong, they went wrong. Now you know that they're wrong, but you can fix it and you can always keep going. My business started just as a mobile service. We expanded to mixers. We have a barware line. We have glassware, but all of it started because I didn't procrastinate anymore. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Chrissy. Anna, what would you say about sending out an SOS, asking for help? How crucial is that to women in this space?
There we go. Perfect. There we go. I think it's really crucial, you know, especially being who I am, Latina culture, mixed immigrant. I know asking for help is a sign of weakness. It's embedded into our culture. Once you strip that stigma from you and you realize that asking for help isn't all more than just perspective, then you can really be in a headspace for you to get the results you need. My support is so strong because I plant seeds in my relationships. It's how I build my friendships. It's how I do my roll calls when I'm doing my project planning, creating menus. My menu is not my menu. My menu is my squad's menu. Because we talk all the time. I'm always like, I got these ideas, these flavors, and I'm talking about bakers, different conceptors, different creative directors, different chefs that we talk about seasonality and programming. But then that also gets me into their commercial space when it's free. I save money. I can piggyback on their accountant meetings because I don't have an accountant and I can talk to their accountant while they're talking to their accountant. I don't go to tastings anymore because I wasn't in a bar at the time. So I piggybacked on my friends' tastings to still continue my palate. I still got to do things I wanted because I planted seeds in my friendships to where giving me help, offering me support is really just a continuation of our friendship. And it could be a professional friendship. It could be a creative friendship. It could just be an acquaintance. But if you don't invest into the people around you, asking for help is a lot harder. But when you're already lending that hand and you're building those relationships, it's not giving help. It's just supporting your friends. So I think it's the perspective behind, if you get out of that you got to do it alone. I've made so many mistakes thinking I could do it alone. That was the hardship of my first 5 months. I wanted it to be mine. I wanted to always have creative control. And it wasn't until I let it go that I was actually able to really offer myself even a better opportunity, because now I have help with my concept. It's beautiful. It gives me goosies. So yes, always. I know, I love that.
Thank you so much, Anna. Mimi, asking for help and sending out that SOS. What words of wisdom do you have to share?
Yeah, so I'm the stubborn one of the bunch. I was the one that, sort of like Anna said, I spent the first, good thing she only spent 5 months. I spent the first couple of years sort of trying to do it myself. You know, I thought I had a handle on it and an understanding of it. I minored in business management. So I thought I knew. And I didn't realize that I was breaking into a space, especially coming from the tech world, that I didn't know a lot about. And I wasn't in the industry long enough on the restaurant side to know what I needed to know to make the move that I needed to make. So I actually got to a point, like I said, in 2018, I reached out to a young lady who won the Cocktail Queen, and I had been watching her. I watch people. I'm almost like a little stalker. I pay attention to how people move. And I had been watching her for years, and I just reached out. I really just reached out. I'm not shy about those type of things. So I said, hey, you know, you've been making some big moves. I admire everything that you do. Help me. Mentor me. And she was on board, and you know, I'm glad that she was. But here's the thing, even if she wasn't, it was a no if I didn't reach out at all. It's going to be a no if you don't reach out at all. So you're not hurting yourself by at least trying. And what'll happen too, because I've gotten a lot of no's on things, even when you reach out and you get that no is not always a hard no, because now you've introduced yourself. Now people know your name. Now that door is sort of cracked. And there have been times, I'm not going to say 9 times out of 10, but 5 times out of 10, there are times that people will come back. Hey, remember you reached out a few years ago about this, or a couple months ago about this, or yesterday about this? Been thinking about it. Here's what I'm going to do. You know, or here's what I can do for you. Here's what we can do together. So reaching out for help has been pivotal. From there, I was able to, you know, like I said, I got excited about competing, started competing, met some people along the way. I've actually been tied to nothing but women. I actually haven't had a male mentor. I watched how they move in business, but I haven't, you know, connected with one, you know, closely like I have with women. And it's super important. You almost can't do it without it. Even on the business side, outside of mentorship, just bringing in help for my team. That was something I thought I could do. You know, Miss Mixon Mimi thought she could do it all until she couldn't. And, you know, what I experienced was a lot of loss of sleep. Your health takes a hit, your spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, all that stuff, it takes a hit. And, you know, what we have to recognize too is we have personal lives. We have things that we have to tend to there and also build this business. It's like having 2 lives. It's almost a duality, and it's something that I'm glad that I got help with on the back end. You know, we always had a team on the front end, but the admin stuff, that marketing, that, you know, advertising, that accounting, all of that stuff, I was doing everything. And I got help, and she's an older lady, and she's still with me. She's in her 60s. And she came in with that wisdom. On top of that, you know, she had been working, you know, in the federal government for 20 years, and she helped straighten things right on out, and me as well. So asking for help, it's a big deal. And like every lady said prior to me speaking, it doesn't make you look weak. You look weak as you sit there and break down because you haven't reached out for help or assistance.
That's right, Mimi. I want to pivot our conversation to innovations and collaborations. That's really where I feel like in my life I have experienced just the power of when good puzzle pieces come together and they make full pictures. And people ask me all the time, like, you literally will work on projects with multiple people all the time. Yes, because I believe in just doing my part and letting other people do their parts, and then like seeing it all happen is the wow factor and the impact for me. So Sarah, Rhonda, and I started Swig Culture 3 years ago. So we had mobile bar businesses. I'm a numbers person, so I had been tracking mobile bar culture for 10 years. And what I knew about it was that it was going to be the one space in the next 5 years or so where women and diverse entrepreneurs were really going to thrive, because it was low overhead to get into the business. It was a real space of autonomy for them to be creative, really own and influence that side of industry. And I really wanted to be intentional about making sure that we had a platform for women that were educators, women to be strong entrepreneurs, and that we would do and commit openly that the majority of our funding went to minority vendors. We were paying our instructors. Like I thought about everything that was never given to me in the 10 years that I've been in this industry. I wanted to make sure we were setting up something so that women behind me would not have to worry about that. In our first year, I said, I want Shannon Mustipher to head it up. And everybody told me I was crazy. They said, you know, you'll never be able to do this conference. People are not going to pay to come. This is nuts. Forget about it. People already go to Bar Convent and all these other things. And I said, but economy and, you know, being my ex was an economist at the time. He said, Andrea, just find a need and fill it. He said, simple. And we started our conference with, between the three of us, less than $3,000 in just a living room conversation. And in 48 hours, the conference sold out before I ever booked a major brand sponsorship. And I hunted Shannon Mustipher down, didn't know her from Adam. And I said, hey, I'm doing this thing. I really, you know, we want to focus on Tiki for the inaugural event. I want you to come. I want you to headline it, blah, blah, blah. She said yes. And everybody was like, she's not going to show. Flew her out. She stayed the whole week. Like, we thought that she was just going to come to like the one event. She stayed the whole week, saw how everything went. The women loved her and people just really gravitated to her because they had never really seen someone diverse headline a bar education experience like that. Like, it was unheard of. Like, nobody was doing it. And we weren't doing it in the name of DEI. We were just thinking about our own representation and spectrum of like what we could lend to being an example before it became an issue. So I want to find out from you all, when you think about building your collaborations and the innovations that you want to bring to this space, what's your bucket list? What's your collaboration dream that you aspire to reach during the trajectory of your career? Chrissy? We'll let Chrissy go first.
Okay. As far as like a trajectory, honestly, questions like this really make me wiggle because where I am now, I didn't expect to be. I just continued to do the work and love what I was doing and wanting to expand. So 3 years ago, if someone would have said, are you going to make cocktail mixers? I'd have been like, that's not in the plan. Or 3 years ago, someone said, are you going to have a warehouse? I'd be like, that's not in the plan. But all of these things have happened and there was no plan. It's just a lot of work. But what I will say, in like a generic answer, is that what I want to do is I want to continue to center like more inclusive cocktail and mocktail experiences where people are able to come out and not feel like they have to know a lot about spirits in order to have a great time. Because what we do know is that once you get to a certain level, it can become sort of like an elitist situation, and like people aren't comfortable asking quote unquote dumb questions. And I don't like that, because if we're enjoying cocktails, if you want to know, the simplest thing is like, how long can I keep a dehydrated lemon lime in my cabinet? I feel like you should be able to ask that. Or what is blue agave, you know, just things like that. Or even like your favorite bartender can come and just chill. So that's one thing that I want to make sure I center and keep centering, is like more experiences where people are able to just come out and enjoy and learn. Then I also want to take over home bars and bar carts. I want to take it over. So if you see me, that was like one of the plans for my cocktail mixers. If you can't hire a bartender, I at least want my brand to be at home with you. So yeah.
Come on, Martha Chrissy.
Oh, and then also another thing, which I've also centered in my business, is making sure that we support Black and brown food systems. I grew up in a marginalized area where it is still currently a food desert. And so that's why I make sure that I source all of my ingredients from Black and brown farmers in DC and Maryland, just so we can make sure that we're centering them and focusing on them, because they don't have the access to capital like everyone else. So if I can continue to do that, yeah.
That's awesome, Chrissy. Anna, how about you? Oh, it's on mute again.
Sorry. I know I'm gonna get it. But yeah, so where I see myself and where everything was going, I built a need in a time where nothing was producing. That's why I put the mixers together. And then I realized my passion and my creativity is a part of my soul. I have to always create. It's just who I am. So now it's just packaging, formulating, and making sure that my packaging is hitting shelves. I also want to be in a bar cart. I want to be in Total Wines. I want to be in Specs. I want to use my bar as a vehicle for me to be able to package and to build a great to go program here, as well as get myself into mailers. I love mailers. I love conceptualizing, and collaborating with other people is the only way I can be that successful. But I want to pivot and actually increase my philanthropy in that way, have benefit to where I can not only create and make myself a profit, but then also work with different organizations that I feel are also underrepresented, not only with just being women of color, but then also adult disabilities is something really big and heavy to my heart. So I had pitched to, second day on the job, I pitched to one of my reps. I was like, well, I have this organization and we want to do an auction fundraiser for the Kentucky Derby Day on May 1st. And the Whitney Museum, local museum, wants to have it and bring me in as me being their mixologist. I'll waive my fees, get it tax deductible for my bosses so I can get off the floor. I have 2 cases of rye coming in. We're going to do batch cocktails. I just organized probably like $5,000 worth of donations, not including the 24 bottles I have coming. And that was second day. So it's collaborating is key if you have your resources. But I know where I can push and pull and ask a little bit, but then that also ask comes with me showing up and being my best self. So it's all about making it work, but philanthropy and really, really getting into using my profits for benefit and letting my money, my dollar weigh in, because that's what we learned with COVID. Our money speaks. We have to spend it with people of color. We have to spend it with minorities, and we have to make sure that we align our dollars where our views are.
That's right, Anna.
Mhm.
Consumer spending and impact. Boom.
Boom.
Mimi, tell us, what do you think, you will collaborate more, or you will, pivot into another space or tackle a bucket list item?
Yeah, absolutely. So being in this space, I'll be honest with you, prior to COVID, a lot of people have said it's kind of been like, a gift and a curse. It's been a really tough thing to experience, but it's also made a lot of us dig deeper than I think we ever imagined we could. And I never wanted to get into wholesale. I never wanted to have a product. It's a whole new lane for me. But now seeing the benefits and the power of collaboration, think just 2-3 years ago, you step into a store or a shop, you didn't see a lot of people working with local businesses. You saw the name brand products, the bigger products. And so in stepping into this space where, I was reached out to by the owner of the smoothie shop, and then I get in there and it's so many different products that I didn't even know existed. Small businesses that now have a space, he's now more than a smoothie shop, because now you've got, sea moss, you've got all these different things that you can get when you go grab a smoothie. That for me opened up my mind to something I didn't even consider. And so now I'm like, oh my God. So now I'm working on building my own collaborative space. So sure, I can sell my little product, but what's more exciting, I think, for me is to now have all these other products that I love and that I know people could benefit from in this one space. And then also a space just to enjoy and just relax, because prior to this, I wanted an event space. That's what was the next step for me. I wanted, my own venue to have, a nice wedding hall or something like that. So that was the goal for the coming years. But now that's sort of shifted. It's still something that I may do further down, but the current goal is to get a space where I can be that collaborative person, because I'm always called for collaborations, but I haven't hosted my own, or I haven't set up a space where I could bring in those that I admire. And so that's like the next step. And in addition to, now reaching out to, the bigger fish and getting these sparkly, pretty glittery lemonades in stores. But right now I'm loving what I'm seeing with collaboration. And I think the boom came from COVID because, or I missed it prior to, but I've been seeing so many people connecting and people using their space and allowing other people to come into their space. And it's been a really big thing. I would not have been able to grow this Life Gives You Lemons brand without that. And everything now has been, because I don't have a store. I didn't have access to a store. I didn't own my own store. And so now to be able to put it in stores and be next to so many other amazing products, it's been good. So I'm loving where we are with collaboration. So that's my next step, is to build my own platform to be able to push out other people's products and continue pushing that collaboration.
Kiata, collaborations and next moves from you.
So collaborations I'm all for, it's no I, it's us. We all here together. We're all doing the same thing. There's money out here for everybody. I cannot stress that enough. There is bread out here for everybody to eat. There is. There's no shortage. Even through this pandemic, business is happening. Things are moving. People still doing stuff. And either you're going to keep on moving with them, or you can sit down and be broke and be poor and be homeless, which no. For me, I am thinking more on a global scale, because like A Sip of Paradise was part of a bunch of plans I had, but it was the one that made sense and hit hard first. So for me, on a global aspect, being Liberian, my goal has always been to re-show people what my country is about. My country is a war-ravaged country that just is still struggling right now. However, business is still happening there. Like there is a Hilton slated to come there in 2024. Bob Johnson bought a villa there. A lot of celebrities actually, they used to vacation in Liberia, and a lot of people don't know this, but the lacking of the service and the whole structure over there was something I've always been really, really offended by, because the women there are treated like the help. Like, not, oh, she's a good cook. No, she's cooking, she's washing dishes, she's cleaning up after all these jerks, and she gets pennies on the dollar. Or she might get slapped on her bottom and she has to be grateful because someone touched her, or what, all these other things. So for me, A Sip of Paradise Garden is wonderful. My plan is to have them in multiple cities. So now I'm trying to map out how I did this, put the pieces together and have it in a nice package, so I can license this and have that working, because I am doing this right now for free, which is fine for today, but I have no plans to go back behind anybody's bar any kind of way, because if I lose my sense of smell and taste, just like Anna said when we first talked, I'm done. I have to protect myself, and I have to protect my businesses, and I have to protect the people that I'm doing all this stuff for. So I have to make sure that I'm together. So for me, a global thing to figure this whole thing out and make sure I license this and keep this moving, and then share it with people, share how I did it. There's no value in me holding this information in. If you ask me stuff, I'll tell you, but if you don't ask me, I'm not gonna say anything, because I don't know what you need. I don't wanna just volunteer stuff to people, because sometimes, people may not be in the space to hear it. But after this, my next project is the Gym Project, which is the project that I'm going to retire from. I feel it. I've been working on this for so long, but it is not a tiny project. It is a big project, and I can't be around people who don't think big like me. If you don't think big like me, we can be cool, but I'm not going to share anything more with you, because you're not going to encourage me and tell me I can't keep going, especially when there are days when I wake up and I was like, why am I doing this? I don't know. When these people are ungrateful, I'm not doing this, or such and such, or I'm out in the garden by myself and I've dug all this stuff and I've weeded all these plots for people who just haven't made it out there. And there's so many days I'm like, why am I doing this? Why do I have to keep doing this? I should do my stuff. I should do me. But it's not me to not be a good person and do these things. So I have to keep my bubble tight. I have to keep my cheer circle tight. Like, there are people that I specifically hit up to cheer me up. Like, I have different pockets of people. But for me, it's a global level. I have to keep these projects moving because my plan is bigger than this. And besides, I'm in my 40s, honey. I ain't gonna be back here shaking tins and all this other stuff. I gotta figure out another way to keep this thing going and also keep the young generation motivated. So when I sit in the bar, I'm getting a good drink. Period. Can we get the next generation motivated and together? Because I want to go somewhere and not have to ask who behind the bar or look at the menu and be like, oh, I don't know about this. I'll just have a vodka soda. But I just think it's really important to think big and do not be scared of it. Just think big. And also, it's not bad if someone says no. Like Mimi said, that no might be for 10 minutes and they can holler at you next week about something. Like, you know what you told me? I might have another idea for that. You just don't know. And you just have to keep working with others. Align people that align with your views and just stay above and have integrity about what you're doing. Just make sure you always do what you want to do the way you want to do it. And make sure people around you can execute that goal with you. It's just hard. And especially when you get to a certain level, it's hard when you're like thinking the people you're surrounding yourself with are trying to take over your ideas. You have to be able to open up and trust that the people you put around you are there for you to help your vision come through. And think big. Did I answer the question? I tend to ramble. I tend to ramble a little bit.
Yes, you absolutely answered it. So I wanted to pause to see if we had any questions in the chat. If anyone wants to throw any questions to our panel, we'd be glad to get that answered. I'll tell you all, so I told myself this year that every quarter I was going to take myself out of a work environment for a week. And I literally have set myself on a calendar timeline to do this. I had just hired an assistant for Farm Distilled, and she was like, Andrea, your week is coming up that you have to be gone. I was in tears thinking about just the power struggle of leaving, and not having to do anything business related. But you know what? I actually hired my assistant 4 weeks ago, and she's actually a young woman that I mentored. When I started operational management in a fine dining concept, I remember she was one of my first new hires. She was super young, but I love that she wanted to know everything. It was almost like she was a little version of me, and I just could not she was always asking me stuff. She wanted to watch me. I was just really drawn to her work ethic and her, just wanting to know. And she worked really hard, and she got her first big girl job, and I helped her get that gladly. And then she had a conversation with me, and she was like, when did you know it was time to walk away from the corporate space? And I tell her, honestly, what I don't remember. I just remember sitting at my laptop one day and saying, I'm out. God bless y'all. And I had no plans. I told her, I was like, if you wanted Auntie to give you the blueprint of how you leave gracefully, that wasn't it. But I said, you'll absolutely know when it's time for you to pack it up on the corporate end of things. But she came to me 30 days ago, and she was like, I really, feel like I'm ready. And I had been talking to my board, and I was like, I really need, somebody else to really do this. And, we're thinking of all these super high level, extra experienced people. And I'm like, yeah, I got this 25-year-old over here that I think is more than capable. And she really wants it. And I said, do we go with the person that's more experienced? Do we go with the younger person? What do we do? And I started thinking about myself when I was 25, and I got my first, somebody that looked like me gave me my first shot. And I said, you know what? Here is my moment to change the course of this in 2 ways. I was her age when I stepped into a role like that. And it was a person of color that looked like me that gave me that. And y'all, she's done so well, 30 days on the, I feel like I could just go to sleep, lay back down, and things would just happen. But it's just how full circle life can come for you in moments when you don't expect it, and how important it is to say to younger women like that, you know, they can have opportunities or create their own, what it will really do to impact them. Like, I don't expect her to stay and work for me forever, but I'm just thinking like, wow, what is she gonna do 5 to 10 years from now if she's killing it right now? And all I did was crack the door open a little bit for her. And it makes me realize how important it is as women that we are reaching back, that we are, you know, walking these roads so that, you know, these other women don't have to deal with things that we had to deal with. God, I hope in the 10 years that I've been around, nobody ever has to deal with the things that I've dealt with. And I hope that we are inspiring this new generation to not be afraid to stand up for yourself, protect your creativity, be a strong entrepreneur, ask questions, be strong, be resilient, tap into your network. If something is going crazy, call and ask somebody some questions like, you know, are they charging me right? Am I being, you know, crazy? Ask the questions, talk to people. And I think that the more that we do that as a community and as talent entrepreneurs, these women are watching like that. I noticed that about me a lot, that people do a lot of watching. And I'm very mindful not to be super perfect. I want them to see flaws because I want them to understand that while these social media posts are real cute, bouncing around to different cities and being featured and in publications and all those things, but there's real life behind that. There's a home to maintain. There are personal relationships to maintain. There are hard decisions that you have to make, like during COVID when you have to let people go and you can't spend as much money, and, you know, having budgeting and things and parameters and infrastructures in place so that your business can operate without you. Like really setting up legacy and empires so that they can see that women are doing this and normalizing the power and impact of women. And I want to thank all of these women for being here today. I want to thank our gracious platform host, SpeedRack, Fernette Branca, for being here with us today. All of you women are building empires in your own city. You all are contributing to economic development, workforce development, entrepreneurial impact. 33% of new businesses in the US employ and directly impact economics in their communities. So you all are already planting seeds of philanthropy and economic development just from being who you are and doing what you do. And that is so important. And may we all leave this place knowing that beyond Women's Heritage Month, every day, each of us are doing our part to contribute to the history, heritage, and legacy of women today and tomorrow. So thank you, ladies, so much for having us. Lynette, thank you for this platform.
Well, I don't even know what to say because you are just so beautiful and wonderful and eloquent and all the things. And I am so inspired by this panel. Like I said earlier, I knew just even from our first like chat how incredible this would be, but you all blow me away every day with how you look at things from a different perspective. You bring humanity and empathy, which I think is so important to business. And this just blew my mind. And we're gonna make sure that this, we have a lot of our mentees here, and I love that you all are engaging because this is a resource for you all. And I think this is it, right? Like being open and honest and real with each other is what's gonna keep us going forward. And let's steal back that capital that's ours. So I'm going to make a nice, I know Kathleen was in the financial investors one, so make sure there's like a financial date with this panel because everything you all are doing is scalable, huge, and it's going to impact the world in ways that are so important. And this is the best to me, the end of this programming that we've had. I'm so excited. We have one more event tomorrow. We have Care Ferguson, who she's totally in like this vein. Care started her Dajibu pop-up. She's a SpeedRack girl and said, there's no one who looks like me doing drinks from my culture. And she and her partner started their pop-up, and she's also about to be a mom. She's like going through all the changes. So join us tomorrow night, 6 p.m. That is actually in partnership with Focus on Health, with our Speed Rack Academy. And thank you everyone for being here tonight. If you don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and end this session, but know that we have everyone's emails here. We're very happy to connect you as an open group. And I don't feel like this is the end of this chat. I think we're gonna have a follow-up, and definitely for a follow-up on this conversation, because there's so much to think about. So mentees, I'm already formulating some programming with this crew and our investors for everyone. But thank you so much for being here tonight. And yes, we will do this all year long, because this is our mission of Speed Rack. It's not just 1 month, but thank you for giving your time this month and working with us to reinvigorate our passion and our mission. And here we go. Let's do it. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Bye, ladies. Thanks, Lynette.
Welcome. Thank you.